I came into films through painting, and I came in really knowing nothing about film. I mean, I saw films, but I saw films not from a movie buff, point of view, and but I wanted to be a painter.
David Lynch studied art. David Lynch came out of Philadelphia, out of the university there, out of art school, and is a painter. So I think it's a natural assumption to think that he deals with surrealism in his own way. It's certainly, it's not Salvador Dali, but it's what I call American surrealism. From the fire engine to the picket fence with the roses on it, to the man having the heart attack with the dog, and the water and spraying the water, and the insects under the soil, and the very phony robin with the, the robins have come back. Yeah, this mechanical. I mean, it's surrealism to me, American surrealism.
Only Buñuel film I saw is Cheyenne Andalou, and that was with Dali. But, many people say that there's similarities. I went to Salzburg to study with Kokoschka. I was going to go to school there, and I'm planning to stay for 3 years. But it was all so beautiful and so clean that I became very worried. Because I didn't feel like it was giving me something, for painting. I went back and went almost immediately to Philadelphia, and Philadelphia was exactly what I needed. It was almost the opposite of Salzburg. It was one of the worst cities in the world, but it was thrilling, sort of to me. It opened up some little doors and made it all start happening.
I met David Lynch at the American Film Institute. One of the instructors, one of my mentors there, Tony Villani, introduced us and said, Fred, here's a filmmaker that I think you're gonna like. He's kind of one of a kind, and I think you'll get along with him. And he introduced me, and we got to work on Eraserhead together. David is an artist in many senses. He paints and he draws, and they're very beautiful drawings, paintings. He loves sound, he loves music. He does that as well. And he makes, these brilliant films. So on all those levels, I enjoyed watching his work, and I enjoyed watching the art progress.
Lynch is so identifiable in how he creates and ties things together in the world and the people. And yes, it is odd, and yes, it is strange, and yet it has a certain form and a certain logic to it.
He definitely wants to create a world where you never know where you are, because that's the world he exists in, and it's the world we all exist in.
He creates out of a really interesting place and is consistent and has a vision that's purely his. I mean, you can tell his movies from anybody else's. Even if you looked at Elephant Man and some of the straighter films, that you can still see it's him.
He is, I think, in the true sense of the word, a visionary, and he follows his own vision, and it is unique, and it belongs to him. And I think his painting, as well as his writing and his filmmaking, all come from that same source.
And I think it's like an unconscious or a subconscious trust. I mean, that's what David has. He trusts his subconscious and his unconscious. So while everyone else around him is going, I don't know, David's like, he may think I don't know either, but at least he's you know what, this came from me. I'm going to trust that it's right.
It's a strange world, isn't it?
Yeah.
He finds interest sometimes in things that most of us, think are fairly commonplace.
David would come in on a Monday morning with Polaroids that he took with his son, and they would go to the grocery store and get a whole chicken, and take a Polaroid of the chicken, and then they'd cut up the chicken and move the parts around so the wing was where the leg, and the leg was where the wing, and the head was up the ass, and whatever. And he'd take all these Polaroids and to show, you know, with his kid, and he'd look at all these Polaroids.
You can be shooting the inside of a dead cow in close-up, and if you didn't know it was the inside of a dead cow, and you enlarge the photo and put it in a room, people could say, this is just so beautiful.
David Lynch has this mind that goes into the darkest depths of civilization in his mind, but yet on the outside, as a person, he's a Jimmy Stewart.
He is a true Eagle Scout.
I'm not so much of an intellectual, but I am more of an intuitive sort of person.
David is not very verbal, or when he talks, he might say things very funny, but he's very expressive. So you always know what he likes, what he doesn't like. He exudes what he thinks rather than articulate what he thinks.
I came into film without having to, really speak or ever articulate certain feelings in words. So I like thinking somewhere beneath the surface.
His film is much darker to me than David is in person. David in person seems a much more serene, happy, adjusted person that he is in film. A lot of people think of him as extremely eccentric or dangerous, or sometimes people had asked me, does he take drugs? Does he have hallucinations? And he said David is a very, very sweet, calm, and happy, born happy. I think he's a very happy person. I've never met anybody who's so serene and luminous as he is.
I like things that are different. And I like distortions because I see so many distortions either inside of people or on the surface. I see, this kind of confusion and darkness and distortions, and it's sort of, fascinating to me.